Thank you, Pierre. I think I definitely would love to try those chips as well. I'm
They
not
they
sure. Are they available in the UK yet, or
Yeah, they are available. We have an online platform which I failed to talk about. We don't only have the retail, but we have yolele.com, also Amazon, of course, Fresh Direct. Most of the online distribution platform carry our products. Yes.
yeah, good to know. I
A-
will definitely.
and in the UK right now is available is a Fonio beer called Brewgood Fonio beer. It just got launched last month actually by Brewgood, so that's available in the UK.
I will definitely need to have a look at it. Would love to try it. Um, yeah, I guess we can just go on to our panel session uh, again. We had a short one before with Tom, but yeah. Um, Also, I just had a question to you, Pierre, when it comes to the fonio chips and like in general, like when it comes to processing fonio itself, how do you ensure the nutritional value that
So
it stays? Yeah.
So for fonio again, and that's a question for all the other crops too. Is it's important to invest in research. So we've been working with research institutes not only on the agronomy of fonio. Most of it for the agronomy, our lead institute was Cornell University in connection with an institute in Dakar for called CIRAD in Senegal, and in with also CIRAD in France, and that's integrating researchers in the work that we have been able to do research on the optimal seeds, get the optimal seeds for the grain, and in the processing level as well. In the processing, traditionally, there was a level of heat that was also depleting the nutrition level, and the way they were doing it, it was so much manual that would remove not only the skin but some of the germs and the brands as well, which had much of the nutrition. So with the mill, we took that into consideration as well, and we have different level of processing as we do with the in the milling. Some is blanching the fonio, which is the way they traditionally like it to be in Senegal, in West Africa, but that's not as nutritious. But we also have the one that is keeping the germs and the brands when as we're removing the skin, which is also keeping the nutrition at the optimal level. But we still need to be doing some more research on the fonio. So we know that that's why we're working with CIRAD and those research institutes to improve the seed, to work on the genomics of the grain as well. There's so much more that needs to be done, and again, that's why it's important to bring other industries to join us into this journey.
And are there some like other plants that you would also like, recommend like from this region, not just fonio, but is there like something else as well? I'm just
Oh
curious.
yes, absolutely. And you see some already in our some of our products. We have the moringa, for instance, which is a leaf that's very resilient. It's high in protein. It's believed to be the leaf that has the highest amount of protein. It's grown in that region, very like drought resistant. Again, we have it in some of our pilafs, in our chips as well. The baobab, we have to use the baobab leaves and the baobab fruits in our products as well. That's another one. I mentioned bambara groundnuts. It's a bean that used to be grown traditionally in the whole region in rotation with fonio, and it disappeared because peanuts became the biggest thing. But it's much more nutritious than peanuts, and we think it's important to bring it back. It really not only is a great ingredient for your consumption, but it's also good for the soil as well. It adds nitrogen to the soil, so that's another ingredient we want to bring back. And like I said, there are thousands of others. Many of them have completely disappeared, but there's still hope to bring the others that are underutilized, and really focusing on underutilized crops offers us a clear solution to not only food security, not only in Africa, but global food security. Because whenever there's a crisis, we have a food shortage because our system has been concentrating the cultivation of the crops in regions. So like there's a crisis in Ukraine right now, and the whole world is suffering. There's no access to wheat or there's no access to oil, to a certain type of oil, corn flour, which is sunflower oil. So that's like, those are the kind of things that are dangerous because of the concentration. So if we can really keep looking into underutilized crops around the world, the crisis we cannot avert, but at least we can have other supplies of other crops from around different parts of the world. So that's really one of the things that I think is important.
So essentially, as I understand, it could be considered as a diversification of the crops and the grains that we use in our global food supply chain.
Diversification is the solution. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. The
It
big trouble,
sound,
we got in trouble when we became a monoculture, when we brought monoculture to the world. That's when it all
yeah.
started.
Yeah, that is certainly true. Reliance on one thing never leads to good things.
Exactly. We know we have to diversify our portfolio when it comes to investing, but when it comes to food, we were very, very foolish to rely on just rice and corn and wheat and soy, and that's terrible to find ourselves in this place.
Yeah, and there's a question actually. Can can you, Tom, highlight the wider sustainability values that you drive if running the farm and restaurant together?
Sorry, can you repeat that one?
It's a question to Tom.
Okay.
Can you highlight the wider sustainability values that you drive with running the farm and restaurant together?
Oh,
You are muted.
Thank you. The wider sustainability values they drive running the farm and restaurant together. Yeah. So the really good thing about having a restaurant and farm at the same place is we can talk to the chefs and work out what foods they like, and they can talk to us to work out what foods we can grow, and then we can grow the foods that they want to put onto the restaurant. And that's something we're improving on at the moment and getting better at. So that's, from a sustainability perspective, the food is barely moving a mile from the farm to the plate, and it helps the restaurants to provide seasonal food, because only the food that we're producing food that then goes directly into the seasonal plates at the restaurant. So I think, yeah, that's the kind of main sustainability benefits. I would say the restaurant also needs to produce food for 12 months a year. So a lot of food does get bought in because you can't produce food that people want to eat for 12 months a year. And I think it comes back slightly to what Pierre was saying. We're very used to eating certain types of food, and we've lost many of the sort of more traditional ways of farming and growing in the UK have also been lost or put on the back burner, and people don't particularly want to eat brassica-based crops from January through to April as their main vegetable. So that would be like cabbages, broccoli, cauliflower, and turnips in Scotland.
Yeah. I think it can be sometimes a challenge as well, like people having their favorites and then be more hesitant to trying new things overall. I guess you probably have run into some kind of challenge in that regard as well, Pierre. Just introducing some novelty in the food system.
yeah, we have to realize that we need to make a big change, and the only way to do it is to imagine it. It's not existing right now, and imagining it would make you think of novel approaches. There will be hit and misses, and eventually you will come up with a solution. But what one thing we know is this system doesn't work, and we have to figure it out now. It's up to us.
Yeah, very true. And also, there's another question to you, Tom. Like, can you tell us a little about the experience people take from the farm, especially with the ability to engage in that process of picking their own fruits?
Yeah. So in the UK, it's a very industrialized food system, and as a result, there's a huge disconnect between the wider public and the farmers. In fact, very few people go into farming who aren't from a farming background. And I think that shows how much of a distinction there is between the farming community, which is very small and often very rural, and the rest of the UK's population. And as we're a democracy, that's really important, because if people aren't engaged in how their food is produced, they're not going to be aware of policies going through and maybe voting with respect to farming policy at elections. So if people aren't aware of their food, they don't consider of how their food is produced. Sorry, they don't consider it when they're working out who to vote for, and that shapes farming policy going forward, if that makes sense. So, in a very, very, very small way, allowing people to come to the farm to be able to pick their own fruits lets people have a little insight into the farming world. And I think that's really important, just to give people a bit of an idea of how their food is produced, and help them engage in the farming community, because it is quite such a closed door.
Yeah, certainly, because I think the more people know where their food comes from, I think the better. Also, how they then make decisions about what they eat and when to eat it as well, because some foods are better seasonal than imported.
Yeah.
Especially considering global supply chains, like having bananas shipped across the ocean can be a challenge, and it doesn't have a sustainable, doesn't have a good impact when it comes to sustainability. I guess let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yes, the last question. I asked this from you, Tom, before, but also I just want to ask it from Pierre as well. What one piece of advice do you think would have the biggest impact for people looking to live more sustainably?
Well, if one thing people could do every day, and they can do every day because they eat every day, is to be mindful of, to be conscious of what they decide to eat, the choices that they make. And if everyone makes that choice based on not only the impact it will have on their health and on the planet, that would be a really a great way. If you think sustainability, and if you think what you're going to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you think sustainability as like a way of thinking, a way of choosing your menu or your diet, it really is, I think, the way forward. We need to really everyone be more conscious consumers to have an impact on the planet. So there are choices out there. Just make sure you allow yourself to be part of the solution, and the solutions are out there.
Yeah, that's certainly true. And actually, I just got to know that you had a recent publication. Can you tell us more about it, please?
Yeah, my next cookbook is coming out in September. Actually, it's called Simply West African. The idea for Simply West African is to really make this cuisine of West Africa more accessible. It is a cuisine that is not as known, and so people think that they need to plan it. So I want this book to make you understand that you can eat that food Monday, Tuesday evening, or any time really, and that's really easy to prepare. But in addition, because it is a cuisine, that's the food that's the most balanced out there. That's not me saying it. That's the Lancet report showing of the diets around the world. That's a plant-based cuisine, plant forward. Very much, if you look at the pyramid of West African cuisine, at the base you have the leafy vegetables, leafy greens, and then you have the beans and the legumes, and then you have the grains, and above it you have the protein at a much smaller scale, and the dairies and the sweets are very, very rarely. So it's really a balanced diet, the type of balanced diet that the whole planet should be approaching, should be thinking. It's really even superior to the Mediterranean diet when you come to it, because of the leafy greens, the insistence of using leafy greens. Nothing is wasted in our agriculture. When I talk about leafy greens, you think about sweet potato leaves, black eyed pea leaves, cassava leaves. All of those things come into the diet, and if you don't have access to those, the same leafy greens you have here, kale, collard greens, all of those, that's like a tradition from West Africa. And then above it, again, following that pyramid, you will see that this is a nutritional dream diet. Again, the beans are very prominent as well. All types of beans, very much prominent. And so this book is talking about that, but I made it in a way that's accessible, and the recipes are quite fun. And that's book really, my other three cookbooks were like based in Africa. I was taking the readers there. This one is from my home in California. So I show you how with my family, my wife who's from Japan, my daughter who's like, she's 3 years. And so that's like the kind of cuisine that's accessible to everyone. And you can get it we go to the farmer's market around the corner and we get these ingredients and we prepare these West African inspired food from our California cuisine. So you can do it from any cuisines really, and it's fun, and it makes your menu at home quite exciting too, actually. So it's really good to have that access as well.
When exactly is it coming out?
It's coming in September, last week of September. It's actually you can be accessible on you can pre-order it on Amazon right now, but it's going to be accessible in last week of September. Simply West African.
I will keep an eye out for it. I would love to try some of that. I think I'm quite a foodie myself, so sometimes I like to try new things. Is it more on the spicy side overall, or just mild?
No, it's mild. I mean, people tend to think of West African food as spicy, but it's really not the case. Again, that's talking about making it accessible. In Senegal, in particular, whenever we have a spicy food, the spice is actually something that you have on the side. You make a special chili jam. They call it chili jam. It's nothing sweet about it, but you have it on the side, and it's up to you to like add it. But those who don't want it to be spicy, they don't add it to it. So it's not, the heat is just there to open up your pores in your tongue and make you have more access to the food. But it's not about spices. It's really about the approach to cooking. It's really about the philosophy to cooking, and more about like really connecting with the ingredients, which is very important, and we have lost that oftentimes in our cooking, in our system. We go to the supermarkets and we don't even have that connection with the ingredients, all the plastic, and then you open it, or it's already processed. And that's something that we're missing. Unfortunately, there's so much to gain from being connected with the ingredients, even in a spiritual level, and that's like something that people find strange to see. But when you see an African woman in the kitchen and you ask her questions about the question that you would ask to a Westerner looking at ingredients, and you want to know the numbers and the portions and the temperatures, and the African woman don't have the answer this way. She sees it in a different way. It's more wholesome, more holistic. It's like, because she listens to the ingredients and she feels it and she tastes it, and she have also senses present, she can know that the numbers and the portions and etc. in a way that's like completely different, but more precise than the Westerner who's just reading the recipe and taking it as like the set in stone. It's not. So I talk about that approach to cooking, and I think it's quite interesting to see it. I totally have faith in it. I believe it because that's where I've got all my inspiration from. As I started to cook when I was a young cook in New York City back 30 years ago, and decided to find West African cuisine as my inspiration. That changed everything for me, and gradually I kept looking for inspiration in that tradition, in the mothers, the grandmothers, and that's why I learned to cook with my senses and cook with intuition more than with just the recipes, and that changes everything really.
I mean, that sounds fantastic indeed, and yeah, I think I get what you mean exactly when it comes to cooking by intuition, not necessarily by recipes.
It's the best way. It's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and also I think it comes back to like to Tom as well when it comes to like people getting more connected to the food that they are eating. Since Tom is doing a pick your own farm, it's very much related.
Totally. That's where it starts. It starts at the farm. It starts with agriculture, and then We forgot that something at somewhere. We forgot what the farmers were about. My cookbook before this one was about really connecting with the farms. I didn't want the reader to just come and see the beautiful pictures of the food, and they don't understand that this food actually is telling you a story. When you look at the story, you look at the ingredients. Look at the ingredients and ask yourself, where did these ingredients come from? And where did this grain come from? And then you go to the farm, you go to the soil, and you connect with the farmer, and how that can even take you all the way back to when this grain was domesticated, and who are these farmers in the UK who are growing, and the type of soil, and how did they learn to understand it, and all that. It's a journey, it's time traveling, going like thousands of years this way, and and that's fascinating in one plate.
Yeah, certainly is. Yeah, but yeah, I think we are at the end of our panel session. So thank you very much for joining us, for both of you. I think both of you do amazing work. Definitely looking forward to like trying those fonyi, fonyo, sorry, crisps
It's
as well.
easier to say than quinoa.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and for Tom, I think yeah, it's like having a pick your own farm is amazing work as well. Can't say I've experienced it myself, so might as well try it sometime since I'm in Scotland. So yeah.
No excuse.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us, and yeah, it should be all. So thanks everyone for joining for our webinar as well. I hope it has been quite insightful for both of you, not both of you, everyone who managed to join the webinar. Just so you know, it will be available afterwards as well, after the stream is finished. You can have a look at it both on our YouTube channel and on our LinkedIn. Thank you for joining.